Welcome back. You're watching Beyond World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Janna.
And I'm Hem Korsara, and on the show today, right-wing activist and Trump ally Charlie Kirk shot dead while speaking on a Utah college campus in what the state's governor described as a political assassination. Donald Trump has ordered American flags to be flown at half-mast until Sunday.
We also bring you updates from Nepal, where Gen Z, the protest movement, has chosen former Chief Justice in Nepal, Sushila Karki, as its interim leader for the upcoming negotiations. What's next in Nepal? We'll bring you that and a lot more lined up for you right here on World DNA. Let's start with headlines.
Right-wing youth activist and influencer Charlie Kirk dies after being shot at Utah Valley University.
FBI launches a digital media tip line for information on the Utah Valley University shooting as Director Kash Patel confirms that a person detained in connection with the killing of Charlie Kirk has been released.
Donald Trump blasts the radical left, suggesting its rhetoric has contributed to the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
Death toll from Nepal's anti-corruption protests climbs to 30, with political uncertainty continuing in the Himalayan country after the resignation of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli.
Donald Trump tells Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a tense phone call that striking Hamas leaders in Doha was unwise.
At least 35 dead, over 100 injured as Israel launches airstrikes on Yemen's capital Sana'a and the Al Jauf governorate. IDF says it targeted military camps, the headquarters of the Houthi military propaganda unit and a fuel storage facility.
A judge in the coup plotting trial of Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro issues the first not guilty verdict. Attention now on the final two judges yet to vote after two already delivered guilty verdicts.
New French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu vows a profound break from previous policies amid nationwide unrest. Clashes break out between demonstrators and police. One protester hospitalized following tear gas incident.
The S&P 500 hit a second record close, boosted by a surge in Oracle shares and cooling inflation data, fueling hopes of a Fed rate cut next week. The Nasdaq ticked up slightly while the Dow slipped nearly 220 points. All right, our top story on World DNA. Right-wing youth activist and influencer Charlie Kirk dies after being shot at Utah Valley University.
Donald Trump confirmed this on social media that Kirk has succumbed to his injuries. In a post, Trump wrote, I quote here, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead," illustrating the huge importance of Kirk. In his orbit, the US president ordered flags on government buildings to be lowered to half-staff until Sunday. Kirk was hit while speaking at an event. He was shot dead at an event in Utah Valley University. The video from the scene showed him addressing a large crowd when the sound of a single gunshot rang out. Kirk appeared to collapse in his chair before the camera swiftly moved and sounds of panic erupted in the audience. Only one gunshot was heard.
Investigators said they believe the single bullet had come from a campus rooftop fired by someone dressed in black in what appeared to be a targeted killing.
FBI Director Kash Patel said one person was held on suspicion of involvement in the killing, but he was later released after an interrogation by law enforcement. Investigation continues, with Patel promising to continue releasing information in interest of transparency. A digital media tip line has also been released for information on the Utah Valley University shooting.
Hey, Charlie, I brought this for you. Hey, you're the man, dude!
To be able to interfere with the life of a...
Now, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
Prominent conservative media personality and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk has died after being shot during a speaking event at Utah Valley University. He was just 31 years old. Kirk was struck in the neck by gunfire from a nearby building during the kickoff of his American Comeback Tour, which included his signature Prove Me Wrong debate format, where he would encourage those who disagree with him to come to the front of the line and discuss various issues for a debate. Kirk rose to prominence as a teenager, building Turning Point USA into one of the most influential conservative youth movements here in the United States, and becoming a powerful voice for President Donald Trump, notably during his re-election campaign. His death has prompted bipartisan tributes. Flags are being flown at half-mast. President Trump, former Presidents Biden and George W. Bush all posted condolences on social media. The FBI is leading the investigation with a person of interest now in custody. They say a motive has not yet been determined. Kirk is being survived by his wife and 2 young children. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION. World is One.
All right, to discuss more, we're now being joined by Glenn Carl. He is a former National Intelligence Officer from the CIA, National Security and Foreign Policy expert. Thank you so much for joining us on WION A World is One. I'm sure you know what's happened. Charlie Kirk shot dead. What is your assessment of the situation? We heard a single gunshot in the videos, especially that are going viral on social media as well. Now, if I were to just quote something that Charlie Kirk had earlier said as well, it's worth to have a cost, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. What's your take on the situation?
The details of the shooting, of course, I don't know any more than any of us. Although I think from Ms. Tehrani's report, there is an update, perhaps, that the person who was detained and questioned has been released now. What I think we can say clearly, though, is that America has been in for a decade, really for longer than that, but certainly for a decade, in a descending spiral of increasing tensions, polarization, and violence. I'm not the only one who warned literally in 2015, since 2015, that the evolution of the political discourse was going to lead to violence in the United States. We've seen this. I think it's accurate to call this an assassination. We don't know who did it or why, but if a prominent political figure is killed in this way, then that qualifies as an assassination. But in just the past few months, there has been a shooting at the Centers for Disease Control by people who who seem to believe, I guess, that vaccinations were evil. And there was a firebombing of the home of the governor of Pennsylvania. And there was the murder of a Democratic lawmaker and her husband in Minnesota. There is, of course, the insurrection, the assault on the U.S. Capitol of January 6, 2021 by thousands of people, and all of the divisions that demonstrated and that have come as a result of it. So this is part of the fraying of the social and political fabric of the United States because of the tensions, frankly, that have been catalyzed and fomented by, I must say, Donald Trump from a decade ago up to now.
Carl, let me just come in there. You know, there is a very, very grave irony there, that the fact that Kirk was questioned about mass shootings in America, and I think seconds into his answer, he was shot dead. Keeping that as it is, you know, the way it is being, or the direction in which the reactions are going, the flags have been brought down to half-staff. You know, the left is being blamed. This is all coming from the US president. Do you feel this is going to get politicized before it has even concluded fully in terms of who the shooter is?
Of course, you know the answer, and I shouldn't be laughing about it because already it has been politicized from the White House.
Mass shootings is not at all being discussed. Please go ahead.
That's right. Yeah. It's politicized from the get-go, from the instant, and even before. And you're framing this in the context of America's national illness about weapons is apt. There are literally more handguns, more pistols in the United States than there are citizens. It has become, it being gun rights or the issue of gun possession and violence, has become a religious issue, and that's not a stretch of vocabulary. Rationality and reason and facts are disarmed, to use an apt term, in this discussion. I even have had discussions with dear friends, colleagues who were in the federal government, who worked for the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Department. Their job is to regulate all three of those items, who knew firsthand about the gun violence, and yet said to me in complete sincerity that guns were not a problem in the United States, because he was on the other side politically from where I think the listeners can infer that I am on this. So it's not a rational issue, and it's a huge social problem. And there have been 1 million Americans killed by handguns and firearms since the attack of 9/11. 1 million.
Understood.
And yet people think that there's nothing that needs to be done. Charlie Kirk was one of them, who vehemently argued against even a discussion really on what to do about gun violence.
Glenn, Carl, thanks so much for joining us here on World DNA. Of course, you know, you've highlighted what perhaps needs to be the biggest issue here of gun violence and mass shootings, but clearly that's not where the narrative is kind of heading in this direction. And if the shooter was at a building top, he was not shooting Charlie Kirk with a handgun. It was clearly something far more specialized than that, because it's with pinpoint precision that only one gunshot was enough to kill him. That was Glenn Carl joining us here on World DNA. Pleasure speaking with you, sir. All right, let's move further from here. Kamala Harris has finally broken her silence on Biden's 2024 presidential bid. In her new book, Kamala Harris has called Biden's 2024 re-election bid was reckless.
Harris says that she felt that she was the last person to tell her 81-year-old boss not to run. She recalls how everyone in the White House toed one line like they were hypnotized. But in retrospect, she said it was reckless to leave the decision solely on Biden.
In her defense, Harris says she was in the worst position to argue against a Biden run, worried that it would seem incredibly self-serving. The turning point came after Biden's poor debate performance against Donald Trump, which the entire world saw, and under mounting public scrutiny, Biden withdrew his campaign on the 21st of July last year.
Harris stepped in as the Democratic candidate, racing against the clock with just 107 days until Election Day. She lost to Trump in November and has mostly kept a low profile since.
The book refuses any White House efforts to conceal Biden's health. Harris writes that his age-related strains became more visible as the campaign heated up, but insists on his worst day, Biden was still better than Trump. Joe Biden was the oldest person ever to serve in the White House, in the office, and he has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones.
Explosions, displacement, hunger, deaths. Palestinians have been caught in this vicious cycle as Israel unleashes its brutal military might to take down Hamas.
And with each passing day, Palestinians find themselves living amid more ruins. Israel is tightening the noose around Gaza City as it brings down one building after another. Israel has issued evacuation warnings in Gaza City, but Palestinians have nowhere to go.
We have no money. Where do we go? They are bringing down the towers, so we leave. Where do we go? Where can we go? Just tell us where to go.
Amid continued Israeli bombardments, Palestinian children were seen collecting dough covered in dust next to their tents.
But hopes of any peace have been dashed after Israel carried out airstrikes targeting Hamas political leaders in Qatar's Doha. At least 6 people have died, including top Hamas negotiator Khalil al-Hayya's son and a Qatari security officer. The Qatari capital has been at the center of Gaza ceasefire talks, with Doha hosting several rounds of negotiations between Israeli and Hamas delegations.
US President Donald Trump said that Israel's strike on Hamas targets in Qatar does not advance Israel or America's goals. This was the statement that had come out earlier, adding that he feels very badly about the location of the attack, which was the Qatari capital.
How do you feel, Mr. Trump? How do you feel? I don't have to do that. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back, but we are not thrilled about the way that went down today. I'm never surprised by anything, especially when it comes to the Middle East. I'll be giving a full statement tomorrow, but I would tell you this, I was very unhappy about it.
The attack has drawn swift condemnation from across the region and beyond. Saudi Arabia has denounced in the strongest terms what its Ministry of Foreign Affairs called the brutal Israeli aggression and the flagrant violation of sovereignty of the sisterly state of Qatar.
The United Arab Emirates also voiced support for Doha, condemning what it called the treacherous Israeli attack. Diplomatic advisor to the UAE president made it clear the security of the Arab Gulf states is indivisible. Kuwait and Jordan also joined the chorus in denouncing the attack.
But Netanyahu remains defiant despite mounting pressure at home. The growing international calls for a truce. Israel has vowed to strike its enemies anywhere, but many believe that the attack in Doha may have torpedoed any chance of a truce.
So far, Israeli offensives have killed over 64,000 Palestinians, and of the 251 Israelis held hostage by Hamas, 47 still remain in Gaza, including 25 that the Israeli military claims are dead. At least 35 people are dead and over 100 are injured as Israel carried out another round of heavy airstrikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels.
Targeting what it calls the propaganda center of the Houthis. Israeli Defense Forces say their strikes targeted Houthi propaganda headquarters and intel centers. Local media also reported that one of the strikes hit a military headquarters building in central Sana'a.
Residents said they heard violent explosions in multiple areas of the city with fire and smoke in the skies. IDF said that the Houthis' military propaganda division is responsible for spreading incitement and propaganda messages in the media, including speeches by the leader Abdul Malik and statements by spokesman Yahya Sari. Israeli Defense Minister said his country promised more strikes and Israeli forces delivered it.
Now, the strikes come after repeated Houthi missile and drone attacks on Israel in recent weeks, including a direct hit on Ramon Airport in southern Israel this week. Israel's strikes in Yemen followed earlier attacks that killed the Houthi Prime Minister and other top officials in a major escalation in nearly two-year-old conflict between Israel and the militant group.
Houthi military spokesman, Brigadier General Yahya Sari, as the title that they've given to him, said that rebels fired surface-to-air missiles at the Israeli fighter jets. Houthis remain steadfast in their resolve to support Palestinians, and Israel has vowed to eliminate any target that poses a threat to its security.
Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has slammed Western and global leaders for lack of action over Russia's intrusion of Polish airspace with drones.
Unfortunately, as of now, Russia has not received a harsh response from global leaders to what the Russians are doing, a response in the form of action. There have been more than enough statements, but so far there has been a lack of action. The Russians are testing the limits of what is possible. They are testing the reaction. They are observing how the armed forces of NATO countries operate, what they can and cannot do yet.
In his nightly address, Ukraine's president said the military spotted Russian drones heading towards the Polish border, emphasizing that it was intentional and not a mistake.
From the first hour of the night, our military recorded Russian drones moving toward the Polish border. And this movement was not an accident or mistake, but deliberate movement. The Russians used both our territory and Belarusian territory to push them into Polish airspace. Almost 24 drones entered Poland, and from the Ukrainian side they appear to have directed less than half of the total number. This was a calculated Russian activity, and we can see the result, how difficult it was to deal with.
Images from eastern Poland showed the remains of a drone after Polish forces, with support from NATO aircraft, shot down suspected Russian drones inside their airspace. This is the first reported case of a NATO member taking direct action amid Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Poland has cautioned that Europe and Russia are moving dangerously close to an open conflict, drawing vows of support from other NATO members. The warning comes after 19 Russian drones breached Polish airspace. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski says that he expects US President Trump to back Poland with concrete actions.
I expect President Trump to show Poland and all our authorities that what he said about Poland's security will be materialized through actions. Today, we need Patriot, anti-missile batteries, because drones are not the only form of Russian threats in our airspace.
Russia has rejected Poland's claims. Moscow's defense ministry insisted that its overnight strike on Ukrainian military targets did not extend into Polish territory. The ministry added that the drones used had a range of less than 700 kilometers, making Poland's accusations baseless. Still, Moscow's defense and foreign ministries expressed readiness for consultations to prevent further tensions.
The Kremlin pointed out that NATO chief Mark Rutte gave no evidence to support Poland's claims, saying only that the investigation is still underway. UN Chief Antonio Guterres, through his spokesman, voiced concern over reports of Russian drones entering Polish airspace and urged an immediate ceasefire leading to a just and lasting peace in Ukraine.
Turning to the situation in Eastern Europe, I can tell you that the Secretary General is following with great concern the reports that the Russian military drones entered Poland overnight in violation of Poland's airspace, resulting in damage to residential areas in Poland. The incident, which reportedly took place during another large-scale Russian drone and missile attack on Ukraine, again underlines the regional impact and real risk of expansion of this devastating conflict.
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
This is World DNA. We will be back on the other side. Nepal's Gen Z protesters have publicly named former Supreme Court Chief Sushila Kirki as their choice for interim Prime Minister of Nepal, as political uncertainty looms in the Himalayan country after the resignation of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. Complete report on the other side. This and a lot more for you. Come right back. This is World DNA.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
This is the situation at the moment in Kathmandu Valley. There is a parliament which has been set on fire. They burned the tires here right in front of the parliament building. They have looted the houses of all these key leaders have been set ablaze. And now stone pelting has just begun from both the sides.
The earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
The earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with AIM. I'm Shivan. Let's start with the headlines.
Right-wing youth activist and influencer Charlie Kirk dies after being shot at Utah Valley University.
US President Donald Trump condemns Charlie Kirk's killing, calls it a black moment for US.
Curfew remains in effect in Kathmandu as death toll from Nepal's youth-led anti-corruption protest climbs to 30.
US President Donald Trump tells Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in a tense phone call that striking Hamas leaders in Doha was unwise.
Nearly 60 wounded, 19 with second and third degree burns as a gas truck exploded in Mexico City, causing widespread damage.
A judge in the coup plotting trial of Brazil's former President Jair Bolsonaro issues the first not guilty verdict. Attention now on the final two judges yet to vote after two already delivered guilty verdicts.
New French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu vows a profound break from previous policies amid nationwide unrest. Clashes break out between demonstrators and police. One protester hospitalized following tear gas incident.
The US dollar steadied in Asia as cooling inflation raised hopes for a Fed rate cut next week. Markets now widely expect at least a 25-point cut, with traders watching key consumer data closely.
Australian Davis Cup captain Leighton Hewitt handed 2-week suspension and a fine of $20,000. This after he was found guilty of pushing a doping control official.
Cheers broke out outside Nepal Army headquarters as protesters publicly named former Supreme Court Chief Sushila Kirk as their choice for interim Prime Minister of Nepal.
Now, 73-year-old Sushila Kirk is the only woman in the Himalayan country to hold the position of Chief Justice. Her tenure was, however, cut short when she faced impeachment in 2017.
Known for her zero tolerance for corruption, Kirk told media that she is ready to step up if it helps the country heal.
Among the ethical and impartial individuals unanimously recognized by the public, we have also unanimously recommended Mrs. Sushila Kirk to form the functioning government.
The unrest in the country was sparked by a government ban on social media, which many saw as a direct attack on free speech. But the rage had been simmering for years due to corruption as well as joblessness.
In a span of just 72 hours, government offices were torched. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli resigned, and drone footage released now shows government buildings in flames with black smoke blanketing central Kathmandu.
Armoured vehicles now patrol the capital. A nationwide curfew remains in place with only brief morning and evening windows for essential movement.
On Wednesday, Army Chief in Nepal met with youth protest leaders and key parties to reach a solution. According to Nepal's Ministry of Health and Population, the death toll from the September 8th violence has risen to 30, with more than 1,000 people said to be injured.
Kathmandu's international airport has reopened, with airlines including India's Air India and Indigo resuming services. The Nepalese army has appealed to foreign nationals stranded in Nepal to seek help from local security agencies. Now, fierce diplomatic exchange is unfolded between India and Switzerland.
During the meeting of United Nations Human Rights Council, Indian representative offered to help Switzerland in dealing with racism, systematic discrimination and xenophobia.
India's remarks came after Switzerland called on New Delhi to protect minorities and media. India called Swiss delegates' remarks surprising, shallow and ill-informed, and urged them to not waste Council's time with false narratives.
Mr. President, we would also like to respond to the surprising, shallow and ill-informed remarks made by Switzerland, a close friend and partner. As it holds the UNHRC presidency, it is all the more important for Switzerland to avoid wasting the Council's time with narratives that are blatantly false and do not do justice to the reality of India.
India turned the tables on Switzerland, calling on the country to address its own problems. Indian representative added that as the world's largest and most diverse democracy, India remains committed to pluralism. It even offered to help Switzerland deal with challenges that it faces.
Instead, it should focus on its own challenges such as racism, systematic discrimination and xenophobia. As the world's largest, most diverse and vibrant democracy, with a civilizational embrace of pluralism, India remains ready to help Switzerland address these concerns. I thank you.
Now, the war of words puts two close partners at odds in a global forum. Switzerland chairs the UN Human Rights Council, but India's stance makes it clear New Delhi will not be lectured, and the quest for perfect democracy applies to others as much as it does to India.
France ignited into chaos. Streets were ablaze and transport grinded to a halt as mobs surged under the smoky black skies.
Protesters blocked roads, lit tires and met with volleys of tear gas. The French are heaping pressure on Emmanuel Macron by attempting to give his new Prime Minister a baptism by fire. Sébastien Lecornu, the newly appointed Prime Minister, says there needs to be a change of policy. 80,000 police officers have been deployed and 200 people have been arrested across France. Here's a report.
Paris looked like a battlefield, sirens flashing, barricades burning, and the air thick with acrid smoke. Protesters chanting "Block everything" stormed roads and railway lines, some hurling rubbish bins, setting them ablaze, others pelting riot squads with stones and glass. Flame-lit shadows dart as a city bus in Rennes erupts in a fireball, while commuters in Nanterre stare in disbelief, trains halted by sabotage on power lines. These are images from the French capital. Police used tear gas on high school students, protesters outside a school. Police fired tear gas at protesters in downtown Marseille. In Nanterre, hundreds of protesters tried to block the roads. Thousands of protesters answered the call to the protests led by a loose left-wing collective called Block Everything. City after city, same scenes. Protesters clashing with police, trying to make their voices heard.
I think there is a lot of weariness, a shared weariness, a lot of frustration, the fact that things are not progressing, that we've been stuck for a while. And as a result, this partly explains these blockades and the widespread discontent.
The blockades are a bit excessive, because we are in a democracy and the people shouldn't block the country because the government isn't making the right decisions.
The Block Everything movement reflects popular discontent with what protesters deem a dysfunctional ruling elite preaching a gospel of austerity. Analysts say the timing is explosive. France's new Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, takes office with a fractured National Assembly, no clear majority, and a nation that feels unheard. His first challenge is not parliamentary votes, but street fires and blockades. The protest flaring up even in the countryside and small towns is reminiscent of the 2018 Yellow Vest movement that, without a clear political leadership, became a first test for Macron during his first term in office. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now, months after deadly violent clashes killed dozens, Cambodia and Thailand have agreed to gradually withdraw heavy weapons from their disputed border.
Reports suggest that defense officials will finalize an implementation plan for moving heavy artillery and destructive weapons in 3 weeks. The two countries have also agreed to set up a panel to coordinate landmine clearance along the border within a month and consider reopening some border crossings to facilitate trade and mitigate impact on businesses and transport.
Long simmering tensions on the Thai-Cambodian border exploded into clashes in late July, resulting into the worst fighting between the Southeast Asian neighbors in decades. The violence claimed at least 43 lives, displaced more than 300,000 people on both sides of the border.
The Southeast Asian neighbors have continued to station troops and weaponry along the border more than 6 weeks after they agreed to a ceasefire. Thailand's newly elected Prime Minister, Anutin, has listed restoring peace with Cambodia as a priority while protecting the country's sovereignty. He succeeded Shinawatra, who was sacked as Prime Minister by a Thai constitutional court over ethical violations over her handling of the border dispute. And the Democratic Republic of Congo is plagued by a wave of attacks. In the latest series of Islamic State-related violence, the death toll in eastern Congo has risen to 89.
Now, officials said late Tuesday that 71 people were killed at a funeral in Nyoto on Monday and 18 others killed in Bena in a separate attack on the same day. Both attacks took place in North Kivu region of the country.
Congolese authorities say the attacks carried out by the Allied Democratic Force, or the ADF, which pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group in 2019 and has carried out large-scale attacks on civilians in recent weeks. The ADF emerged in Uganda in the 1990s and blamed the government there of persecuting Muslims. The terrorist group is now based over the border in DR Congo, where it regularly attacks civilians of all religions.
The Congolese and Ugandan militaries have been conducting a joint operation against the group. A Congo analyst at Crisis Group International says the military operation against the ADF has only scattered the group, and attacks by smaller units have continued inside communities and forests. Now, for the first time, researchers have unraveled the very fabric of our thoughts, decoding the secret language of the brain.
This next story tells you how this groundbreaking discovery could change everything we know about how we think, how we feel, and how we decide. More in this next report. Take a look.
What if every choice you ever made, from what to wear to what to believe, was part of a grand, hidden algorithm? Scientists have now charted the brain's decision-making process, and the revelations are staggering. Instead of a single command center that weighs options, new research from a multi-lab collaboration shows that our choices are a networked function, an elegant symphony of billions of neurons across the brain working in parallel. The new revelations appear from two big studies. The first one outlines the widespread distribution of electrical activity related to decision-making. The second study, which is also published in Nature, used the data to evaluate how expectations shape choices. Using new technology, researchers mapped the activity of more than 600,000 neurons, revealing that our prior knowledge, expectations based on past experience, isn't stored in one place. It permeates the entire brain, from the senses to the areas that control our actions, weaving itself into the very fabric of perception. Why does it matter? The deeper scientists dig, the closer they get to fixing brains out of sync, from addiction to dementia. This new brain map could rewrite treatments for mind disorders, teaching machines to think like humans as well and save lives.
Americans are facing a growing auto debt crisis as cars become more expensive than ever.
Now, the Consumer Federation of America reports that the average new car now sells for nearly $50,000, with 1 in 5 buyers paying more than $1,000 a month. Used car prices are up 6.3% compared to last year, and nearly 20% of new car buyers are taking out loans that stretch 7 years or longer.
With total auto debt exceeding $1.6 trillion, delinquencies and defaults are rising sharply. Auto loan defaults are hitting Americans across age groups and credit profiles. Borrowers aged 18 to 29 are falling 90 days or more behind on payments faster than older buyers, while even those with above average credit scores are twice as likely now to default compared to pre-pandemic levels. Repossessions are at their highest since 2009, jumping an estimated 43% from 2022 to 2024. For consumers, falling behind on payments can trigger a dangerous debt spiral, as seen in cases where losing a car leads to job loss, housing instability, and mounting legal bills.
Consumer advocates warn that the federal oversight is falling short. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Federal Trade Commission have scaled back enforcement against predatory practices, while exploitative dealer tactics, hidden fee, and discriminatory add-ons continue to burden borrowers. The CFA is urging Congress to end such practices and strengthen protections, citing similarities between today's auto loan trends and warning signs seen before the Great Recession.
Experts say without stronger safeguards, millions of Americans could face a growing cycle of debt, putting the wider economy at risk.
And this holiday season, US retailers in the tourism industry are bracing for a slowdown.
Shoppers are pulling back as inflation, tariffs, economic uncertainty, all of this weighs on spending. This next report looks at the key trends shaping the US economy. Take a look.
Holiday sales in the U.S. are expected to rise at their slowest pace since the pandemic. A Deloitte report shows that inflation, higher tariffs, and a weak consumer confidence are all weighing on spending. While online sales are projected to grow, in-store shopping is slowing, and retailers face a mixed picture as the holiday season approaches. Shoppers are feeling the squeeze. Rising credit stress, low savings, and a weaker job market are pushing households to be more cautious. Big retailers are split in their expectations. Some see steady demand, while others are bracing for pullbacks in categories like electronics and furniture. Value-driven spending on clothing, essentials, and health products is expected to hold up better. Together, these trends point to a cautious consumer mood heading into the year's busiest months. The same pressures are visible in tourism. Hotels and travel businesses face revenue losses as international visitors pull back and domestic travelers opt for shorter, cheaper trips. Visa delays, staff shortages, and funding cuts to tourism promotion add to the strain. Experts warn the industry's recovery will be uneven, though global events like the FIFA World Cup could offer a much-needed lift. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
And India began their Asia Cup campaign in style. The men in blue bowled out host UAE for just 57 and then chased down the target in just 4.3 overs in Dubai.
Now, India are overwhelming favourites for the title and they were naturally expected to ease past Manaus UAE. But despite those odds, the manner of the victory was particularly impressive. India captain Suryakumar Yadav won the toss and opted to field first at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium. 15th ranked UAE struggled against the world champions. Spinner Kuldeep Yadav was the pick of the Indian bowlers, finishing with figures of 4 for 7. While Shivam Dube also impressed with 3 wickets for just 4 runs.
Such was India's dominance that they even withdrew an appeal. Junaid Siddiqui was spotted out of his crease and wicketkeeper Sanju Samson spotted it and promptly hit the stumps with an accurate throw. A towel slipped out of Dube's trousers that apparently distracted the batter and Suryakumar Yadav withdrew the appeal despite Siddiqui being given out by the third umpire. Eventually it didn't matter as UAE were skittled out for 57.
India needed less than 5 overs to wrap up the victory. The 4.3 over chase in their quickest win in T20Is. World number 1 T20I batter Abhishek Sharma scored 16 ball 30 before being dismissed. Shubman Gill and Suryakumar Yadav took India home with 93 balls to spare. India now face arch rivals Pakistan on Sunday.
Game over.
Now, the cast of the new movie, The Long Walk, arrived in LA for the film's premiere.
The film is based on a novel written by Stephen King in 1979 under the pen name Richard Bachman. Find out more about the event in this next report.
It's unbeatable. And I would recommend they see this in the audience because it's so immersive. You can't help but relate to what the people are doing in the film, and you feel much more a part of it, not only seeing it on a big screen, but with a packed audience.
And with that, we call it a wrap on this edition of World Dealing.
We'll step into a short break now. Stay with us. This is Beyond World is One. News and updates continue on the other side.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on